Hello, everyone. Welcome back to SPLAT. Today is a very special episode because we have the best guest we could possibly ask for. We have Paul Litherland, everybody.
Hi, Paul.
Hey guys, how are we going?
Good. How are you? Thank you for being with us today, Paul.
No worries at all. Always happy to be here with you guys. It's good.
Yeah. So Paul, could you tell us a bit about yourself, like what you've been doing?
Okay. Wow. A bit of a long story. I was a WA police officer for 20 years here in Western Australia. Loved my policing career, but for the last 6 years I worked within technology crime. So we were dealing with scams, hacking, cyberbullying and all that sort of stuff. So really got frustrated, I suppose, with how poorly the network, social networking especially, was designed. So started doing a couple of little cyber safety presentations at my kid's school, much to his embarrassment. And 15 years later, here I am continuing to do that. So Surf Online Safe was born around 2012 and have not looked back since. So getting all around schools in Australia and giving education in regards to online harm.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's good fun. Good fun. Keeps me out of trouble, apparently.
So some of the achievements you've gotten is 2022 WA Australian of the Year. What does that mean to you, that award?
Well, it was a pretty big one, that one, because it gave me, I suppose, an opportunity to lift my voice a little bit higher on the national scale and an international scale. So I was actually nominated by a student of mine who went through quite a serious online harm issue, and it was sort of I suppose, a roller coaster ride after that, getting nominated and then becoming a finalist, and then the awards, which happened in Perth at the Western Hotel. I honestly just went there thinking, free meal at a nice hotel, pretty good little function, because there's some amazing people in Australia who were up for the award, and I was very shocked when they called my name out. So it just gave me an opportunity to sort of really spread my message on more of a national level, which was great.
Yeah. Are there any other awards what's the most favourite award you've gotten?
The WA Australian of the Year would be my favourite because it's right up there. But one of the others I've also received was a Pride of Australia medal in 2007, which was an award given by a couple of news organisations across Australia. They sponsor it, and I was given that for just my work in, I suppose, the aftermath of a child murder that happened here in Perth, and also the fact that I was also, a lot of you guys won't know this here, but I was actually hit by a car in 2004 as a police officer. I was run over on the freeway, and I was pretty badly injured. I was I was in rehab for 6 years. I was almost killed. So being able to assist that family deal with that crime, and then also dealing with my own issues, it was quite concerning. So that's why I got that award. So that one's pretty proud. I'm pretty proud of that one as well.
Yeah. So Tim, would you like to say your question?
Yeah, sure. So why did you originally want to work for the WA Police Force?
Wow, that's a good question, Tim. My father was also a police officer, so I'm a second generation WA police officer, and I loved the fact that the camaraderie side of the police, but I never thought I would join the job, as we call it. I was just driving trucks for a business for a bit, and so I just thought around 24, 25 years of age, I probably needed a job that was a little bit more secure, had more sort of potential in regards to growth, and made the decision to join at 24 years of age, and I loved it. It was a great career, 20-year career. It was good.
When you were working at the WA Police Force, what were the major life lessons? Were there anything that you took away from that experience?
Yeah, for me, it was always about one thing I learned very, very early is to listen and to engage with people, whether that's a victim of crime or even an offender, a criminal who's broken the law. Try to get that empathy and of being in their shoes. And yes, unfortunately, like in every industry, there's some bad coppers out there. But for me, it was always about just one of the big vital messages for me was just to listen and get to understand the people you were dealing with. And I think that really continued to evolve through my career, and not only even what I'm doing now. It's just to actually just share my experiences and to be able to sort of guide people who may have been offending, who may have been going off the tracks, to sort of just try to help them get back on track by being a conversationist. I tended to win a lot more battles with my voice than my baton, so that was where I think things really continue to evolve.
Yeah. All right. Kyle, would you want to say your question?
What are some lesser known risks or threats online that most people, especially parents and educators, might overlook?
One thing I find is one of the least things that people are aware of, especially parents from a degree, is just how many online offenders have pushed to the online worlds to target kids now, especially with scamming. We talk about scamming here at the school all the time. So one thing I still believe that so many people have not really clicked onto yet is, pardon me, is how many online offenders have shifted to targeting children, because you guys are a lot more vulnerable. But more importantly, you guys are in online environments that you never were 15 years ago. Gaming is huge now. You're making purchases online now, which is huge, buying V-Bucks and all that sort of stuff. So, but more importantly, it's even teenagers. I was speaking at a high school yesterday to year 10s and 11s and 12s, and they all got their own bank cards now as well. So you guys are even making your own physical purchases. So the reason I speak about that is so many offenders now, criminals and scammers in particular, have identified that. So you guys are inexperienced, so that they're targeting you. So that's a huge issue.
Do you see it in the elderly as well?
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Ash, because the gap, and when I started at Tech Crime Guys, the vast majority of people who were being scammed were adults between the ages of 30 to 50, right? But because those people started becoming more aware, scamming became very advertised and promoted, so they become more aware. Many of our scammers now have pushed to juveniles and to seniors because they don't have the awareness. The seniors don't have the awareness because they're not familiar with the internet. And you guys don't have the awareness because of the fact that you're a bit too trusting at this age, or you rush in, not because you're silly, it's because you're kids. So those vulnerabilities, this is why, and it's a great question, mate, because that the vulnerabilities of juniors and seniors now is massive in the online world.
Yeah. What are some common mistakes teenagers make online?
The biggest mistake that teens will make is they tend to rush in a little bit, and that's not because there's something wrong with teenagers. It's just that's the way you guys are designed. I did some stupid things when I was a young fella, but I mean I'm lucky I never had the internet. But most teens in particular, and preteens, they don't assess risk until after the fact. So something goes wrong, they'll go, oh, I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have done that. As adults, we have life experience, so we can pick up on that. And I know it sounds a bit of a corny statement here, but I'm a footy coach as well, boys. So I say to a lot of my players, you learn more from your losses than you ever do from your wins, because you've failed or you haven't been successful. So as much as you don't want kids to stuff up, you almost want them to stuff up so they learn their experiences. But I just hope that those stuff ups aren't severe. So for me, the biggest thing is rush in. We're rushing in a little bit, and that's why I call it internet awareness, not cyber safety.
Yeah. Ollie, you want to say your question?
Yeah, it's my questions now. So, how did you because everyone's got that moment where they know what they want to do. What was that moment for you?
In regards to being a police officer or going in a surf online safe?
Anything.
Okay, all right. Let's go on to the surf online safe of things. When I was a police officer, that was just, it was almost like my age. I needed to do something. I needed to get a job that had a good foundation, and that's why I joined the police. But when I started up Surf Online Safe, it was out of frustration. I started getting really annoyed at how poorly people were being protected online. So for me, especially having my own kid who was only young, he was only 9 or 10 years of age, it was almost a calling, boys, because I could see that harm. I could see the networks weren't doing anything about it. So it was just an epitome for me to go, okay, something needs to be done. So as much as I didn't want to leave the police, and I was very hesitant to do that because 20-year career, it's a very secure job, and I just felt the need to go. So, and this is why I say so much in a lot of my motivational speeches to guys like you is don't be afraid to change lanes. Don't be afraid to pull a plug and go, okay, let's move this direction, that direction, because for me, it was one of the best things I ever did. Okay, as a police officer, I never would have won an Australian of the Year award, and Surf Online Safe, it was just a little thing I thought, I want to help people, and it went skyrocketed from there. It was good.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you're very notorious about, like when I mentioned Paul Litherland to people around the school, they were like, oh, I'm pretty sure he found my Snapchat account. Is there like a rough path that you go down, like find like the school and then like track down?
The positive thing about the internet to a degree is information is great. Getting information is awesome. You guys can just Google something. You can go to ChatGPT now and get so much information and data. But the negative side of that to a degree is, as well as what I've got frustrated with as a police officer and as a dad, is how easy it is to find information about kids. So in my education to my students, I want to really emphasise that point and go, okay, if I can find you, anyone can find you. So something as simple as searching a school, going to the newsletter, download the latest newsletter. You'll have 50 names of kids in the newsletter, and then you'll search names. Many kids will use their real name on social media. You'll look at local football clubs, netball clubs, and all that sort of stuff. So you can build almost a collection of data and information. And as much as I use this to really emphasise the risk involved in that and the lack of privacy, it proves a really good point in regards to how vulnerable we can be and how difficult it is. And I challenge any of your listeners to really not have some level of online footprint these days. It's almost impossible. So for me, it's about just trying to minimise that linkability. So yeah, a lot of my kids, we have a good laugh about it, but we also get, a lot of them get stunned going, oh my God, he found my Snapchat, or he saw that TikTok video of me with my mates. So, but it's just great to share those experiences. And I think I do it in a pretty good way, because without coming out and lecturing you, it's just about telling you, if I can find it, anyone can find it. So privacy doesn't really exist, unfortunately.
Yeah. Are there any police cases you can tell us?
Police cases were pretty good. I share a case with you guys every year. At every year level, I sort of advance that. But one of the best cases we did at Tech Crime, which was a national case, was there was a whole pile of scammers who'd come over from Africa and got jobs here in Australia at McDonald's restaurants. Okay, now when you go through Macca's drive-through now, you've got the FPOS machines on a pole, yeah? The reason that is these days is because these scammers all got jobs at McDonald's, but they brought their own FPOS machine. So when mum and dad went to pay for McDonald's, they put the card in. It wasn't McDonald's who was getting paid, it was these scammers. So every second, third or fourth purchase, they'd put their own FPOS machine out instead of McDonald's. So that netted over $22 million. So the investigation to try and find out who they were, we knew what was going on, but all this money was leaving the Australian shores going to a Nigerian scamming organisation. So that's one of the biggest cases we have. So this is why now we have FPOS machines that have got the big long stick on them, so you know it's actually theirs. So it's pretty cool. So that was a good one. And of course the other stuff I deal with, I share scam cases with you guys. It would have been probably year maybe 7 I would have shared with you the fake V-Bucks website that was being run out of the UK. So it wasn't real. The kids were making purchases of V-Bucks, and of course they weren't getting their V-Bucks. And those 58 scammers made $17 million in 12 months. So it's huge. It's huge. So they're two of the cases that I remember quite well at Tech Crime. And then there's a whole pile of stuff as well from my whole career, which was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Wow.
Another question.
You go.
You have a lot of experience in a lot of things, right? Did you make Surf Online safe like on your own, or was it with like another person?
No, it was just me. It was just me. It was sort of it was just a little bit of a side gig for a while there, boys, realistically, because I was still a serving police officer. So I left the police in 2014. Surf Online Safe was started around 2012. So it was just a little side thing to go, okay, I might just get out and educate. And then a couple of schools were getting me in, and then 2 schools turned into 5 turned into 10, and 10 turned into 50. So I just thought it was a little bit of a niche market. And then, just evolved it from there. So, it's just me.
I found out that apparently over 350,000 students have seen one of your presentations.
Yep, that's up to over 500,000 now. So, it's good. So I take a lot of stats on who I speak to when I speak. And, so I've done over 2,700 presentations over the last 10 years to 560,000 students now, and about 280,000 parents. So it's good, and it's proud to keep those numbers because it shows that you're having an effect. I mean, even here, I'm very, very proud to have been part of your school community now for 12 years. You guys were one of the first schools I presented to, and I think that proves a point. If Paul keeps coming back, you guys must like me, because I probably wouldn't have lasted maybe 3 or 4 years if I just came out and said, don't do this, don't do that, and bagged you. So that it's proud for me to be able to communicate to so many kids who know me. It's great.
Yeah. Do any of you guys have any more questions?
I can extend onto the people knowing you part, because like everyone here from SPLAT can vouch that when we went down to set everything up this morning, and some of our friends looked at us and went, is this the Paul Litherland episode?
And that's one out of everything I do, guys. That's the proudest thing I deal with. And I was at Scotch College recently, and the day before Scotch, I just bumped into a couple of kids who are 22 years of age now. Well, they're not kids, they're adults, you know what I mean? And they said, "Oh, Paul, you came out to Scotch when we were kids." And I said, "Oh, I'm there tomorrow, actually." And we remember your presentations, this and that. And it's funny, boys, because when I went into Mosman Park Subway, for lunch last year, and I walked in, and the girl behind the counter was about 25, and she said, "Oh, hey, Paul." And of course, when anyone says that to me, I go, "Oh, what school?" Because I know I would have presented to them. And she goes, "Oh, I was at Iona, blah, blah, blah." And I've gone, "Oh, cool, blah, blah." She goes out the back to grab the manager. The manager comes out, and the manager goes, "Paul, how you going?" And she goes, "You came to my school." And I said, "Oh, what school?" And she goes, "Leeming Senior High School." And then I kid you not, boys, there's a guy who came in the door to get lunch, and he had a fluoro vest on. He's a tradie. And he opens the door, he goes, "Hey, Paul, how you going?" So 3 people in one little moment all knew me, and that makes me proud, because number one, they acknowledge me. If I was just a presenter who came in, "Oh, here's this guy again," they wouldn't have done that. So it's proud of me, very proud that I have that footprint and the respect, because like I said, it's how I think how I present. We have a laugh, and I don't come out and lecture, which is pretty cool. And I think that's important from maybe any potential person who's listening, who might want to start that business. You gotta speak to kids. You don't speak at them. You speak to them. It's good.
Yeah. Is there anything like does parents get annoyed at the kids like when they do something stupid?
Yeah. But hey, we all did. I mean, I like I said, I did stupid things, and I would have annoyed my mum 100%. I'm certain of that. She told me many times that I annoyed her, but we always got to come back to that foundation. As parents, they worry about us, they fear, because especially online world, boys, they don't get it. They don't know. So as much as they get frustrated, what I find so much in the history of my work now, 15 years at the coalface of online crime, is so many parents will go, 2 things. They'll say, "Why didn't they tell us?" Okay, or they'd say, "Thank God they told us." So as much as you might get in trouble, you might lose something, you might lose your console, your device, or whatever. Most parents do get frustrated, but if we communicate with them, we get an understanding of where they're coming from, and they get an understanding where you're coming from. Then the balance does work, and that's what I do when I talk to parents. I tell them to give you guys cut you some slack. But I also, when I speak to you guys, I said, get to know where mum and dad are coming from, because this is a difficult world for them. It's hard.
Yeah. Did you prefer working in the technology crime investigation unit or like in the field?
I loved working in the field because it was so much more fun. Working with the public, screaming, driving around fast in police cars and stuff like that, tasering people. No, only joking. That was great. I loved the technical side of tech crime. I loved the investigative side of it and getting right into the niche of crime and how that works. So working with a really great team of detectives, it gave me... I learnt so much. And that's one of the things. It was great, but If I went back to policing now and you gave me a choice of tech crime or frontline policing, I'd take frontline because it's good fun. It's good fun.
Yeah. Do you guys have any more questions, Tim?
Yeah. Out of like everything, what is like the number one tip you would give to people to minimise their digital footprint?
Wow, good question. Tim, the biggest one I say is slow down and assess first. Where most victims of crime become victims is they've rushed in and they haven't truly assessed. Now, in our physical real world, we do that all the time. When you go to cross the road, you'll check. Okay, if you're in a public space or a shopping centre or whatever, and someone's acting a bit suspicious, you have that awareness. You'll take action to be secure. You'll look around, is there an adult or whatever. Online, we're not doing that, especially if we're at home, we're in our bedroom or whatever, we're secure physically at home. We forget that the online world can still be just as risky. So the biggest issue we have is teenagers and preteens will rush in. They just don't take the time to slow down. Like that scam site I spoke about in London, selling V-Bucks, 546 Perth victims lost money. If half of those kids had Googled the website, they wouldn't have got scammed. If half of those kids had just gone, Mum, Dad, can you come and check out this site for me? They would have realised it was a scam. So that rush-in mentality is the biggest issue. And again, it's difficult to address that because that's what we do as kids. That's what we do. It's about trying to get those times, those little moments in the back of your mind, just assess. If you're feeling suspicious about something, act on those suspicions. And that's the hardest thing for me to educate.
I was wondering, since you've started Surf Online Safe, how much do you think it's grown?
It's grown a lot, and I'm at over 800 schools across the nation now, mate. So I remember saying to my wife, boys, when I started that first year, I said, look, if we can get to 50 schools, I reckon we'll be okay, because my wife was still working at that stage, so we had a mortgage to pay and all that sort of stuff. So if we can get to 50 schools, I reckon we'll be okay. And I never realised how big it would get. And it's still only me. I get that. If I had a team, we would probably even be bigger, but I always wanted to personalise Surf Online Safe to keep it with me. But it's huge now in regards to my reputation and how far I think I've done a really good job at influencing teenagers here in WA and Australia, and even shifting the culture of internet use. I think personally, and you don't want to sound like you're big noting yourself here, but I think personally, and there's other great educators around Australia, don't get me wrong, and schools educate well, but I think in 15 years I've done a really good job at shifting the culture of internet use for teens, especially you guys here. It's a culture now, which is good, which is what I want to shift.
Have you ever considered like teaching schools like overseas?
Yeah, I've done a couple of online sessions overseas, and I'd like to branch out to that, but it's difficult because my calendar fills extremely quickly here. I'm booking out about a year and a half in advance at the moment. So, and you guys especially, Paul, quickly book us in for next year. So it's very difficult. I want to try and travel a little bit more, but it is difficult because of how busy I am, and now pushing into advocacy, working with government to try and get change happening to protect you guys a bit more. That's where I'm sort of pushing things now as well. Yeah, I'd love to go to America and speak to Mr. Zuckerberg and speak to many of the big techs over in California, But I haven't had that opportunity yet.
What would you say to Mark Zuckerberg?
This is a youth program, so I probably won't say what I'd really say to him, but no, I mean, and I just challenge him, and not just him, it's all the big tech companies to go, you now know that there's harm on your networks. You know that your networks aren't designed appropriately. You need to start taking real action, not just token action, and to really challenge him with what I see and the harms I see. And boys, everything in our physical world has rules. I mean, the studio we're in now has been built with rules and guidelines. You can't be in here if it wasn't approved by the school, if it wasn't ticked off by safety regulators. But the online world doesn't have that. You can create an app, you can create a network and go, here you go, kids, whatever. Use it. If something happens, not our problem. So we need to change that, and to be able to sit down with someone like Mark Zuckerberg and actually explain to him what I see and what I deal with would be a great opportunity. But he doesn't listen to people like me, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's just not a good listener if he doesn't listen to you.
No, and that's it. I mean, hey, he's a great businessman. I mean, last year it was $3,784 a second he made. That's $122 billion. So go for it. I wish I'd thought of Facebook. I'd be a billionaire. I wouldn't be talking to you guys today. But hey, it's. I get him. He's a businessman. I get it. But for so long, we've just forgotten about the values we should have in the real world that should be reflected on the online world, but we haven't been doing that for 20 years.
Yeah. So before we end the episode, is there one piece of advice that would be usable for everyone?
Yeah, slow down. Take the time to slow down, assess your online environments, and anyone listening, if you've stuffed up, don't be afraid to speak to an adult. Don't be afraid to talk to someone. Don't be afraid to communicate. Talk to me. I'm here to help you. But just for me, it's just that slow down. The internet is not designed appropriately. It's not designed with speed bumps. It's not designed with warning signs realistically. So if we can just take that time to go, okay, is this legit? Is this real? Will this come back to bite me on the backside? But take those times just to slow down, because out of everything I do, that's my biggest frustration. And I never lecture kids, but so many of my kids will go, oh, I should have done this, Paul. Oh, why did I do that? Oh, I didn't think that would happen to me. In hindsight, we know that. And that's why I say to you about that win and lose mentality or analogy in football is so many teenagers will stuff up. And as much as that's bad, it is also good because they can tell their mates, this is what I did, and that communication can grow. So if I can get that voice out there by just slow down, we'll be right.
Yeah.
I have two last questions. If you had, have you been on any other podcasts other than Splat?
I've been on quite a few podcasts. Yep.
This is the best one?
Yeah, of course. This is probably the best one because it gives me an opportunity to speak directly to you. So often the other person sitting on the other side of the microphone is an adult, and there's an agenda to a degree. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, but again, it's just great to communicate with you guys to get to the core of what I do, which is talking to kids and helping and advising and mentoring kids.
Yeah, and my last question before we finish out this episode is I just have a little request because everyone loves you around over here. So can you say, everyone go listen to Splat?
For sure. Get on to Splat, guys. Listen to the podcast. Great stuff. Great team. Really loved it. And it was one of the best podcasts I've ever done. Good work, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, boys. Well done. Good work.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.